Well, all right. Let's get to business. NFL football. So definitely today is a day where a lot of people who don't normally think about football are today here on Thanksgiving. Um, a lot of people do. I would say probably today outside of Super Bowl Sunday. This is probably to me the biggest football day of the year as well. We're going to talk about the games that are on to the games are going to be on later. Some of them in the Big Five, etc. Games this weekend. But the Ravens are successful, 30-23 in the football game on Monday Night Football. No, we didn't get Frank Gifford and Howard Cosell in the booth. We had the Joe Buck and Troy Aikman doing an outstanding job with that Monday night. Lamar, not bad on Monday. I think 16-22, 1-7, 2 TDs. Slow starts are happening now more often. That's kind of the concern that I have for it, that they're getting off kind of slow, a little bit much. A little bit much. You're kind of getting off to these slow starts, and that's not a good thing. It's not cost them a football game yet completely, but going forward, got to keep that in mind. You're not getting you're getting off to these slow starts. So Lamar 16-22, that's the only concern. Obviously, they went for it on that fourth down on their own 16. Insane. But it got them going. They got the motor running, and it's like that. Once they got money, they needed a couple of fourth downs, needed to run the ball, got their mojo going. Actually, decent night for Lamar. Derrick Henry, almost in a weird way, as good as these numbers are, 24 for 41, 24 carries, 140. He seemed like he kind of got overshadowed by Saquon Barkley on Sunday night in a weird way. But this is what you do. Get the ball, Derrick Henry's hands, 20 games, 20 carries. You've won every game where you've done that. Elementary, Malcolm Watson. I mean, this is easy stuff. When you get the ball in Derrick Henry's hands, you go ahead. You could see it in the fourth quarter. They were kind of wearing a good Chargers defense down. Khalil Mack, Bosa, Tilapu. I mean, good Chargers defense, but he kind of wore him down over 4 quarters. So good stuff from Derrick Henry. Zay Flowers, I think, is one of the top receivers in the NFL. That's not hyperbole. I think he should be. Last week he was in the top 5. I haven't looked it up if he's still in the top 5, but definitely in the top 10 as far as receiving yards. He's been fantastic. I think he's a really developing in his route running. So I don't think there's any question about it. He gets open often. Guys have trouble staying with him a lot. The height bothers him as well. That's the only thing. 50-50 balls, but he runs past guys a lot. So I think that's outstanding with the speed of Zay Flowers. Ravens defense, 4 sacks. Oweh had a sack. I forget the other thing. They definitely Oweh had a sack, bringing up his sack total. I think it was Van Oy, but it was a good individual effort from the Ravens, getting 4 total. Malik Harrison. Yeah, I didn't even realize it watching the game. 14 tackles for Malik Harrison. So here's a guy who basically plays on special teams. Roquan Smith out last week. We may get Roquan back. That's this week. 14 tackles for Malik Harrison in this. Malik did, I thought it worked as good as it was going to work as far as that rotation. It's really hard. This hasn't been Roquan's best season. It's hard to replace a Roquan Smith, obviously, but that was decent enough. I was very impressed with Roquan in Roquan's absence, rather. Malik Harrison, Chris Board, etc. I thought they did a decent job stopping the run against the Chargers. Justin Herbert, 21 of 36, 218. Herbert, I think, is always been a bit overstated as a QB. I think like his athletic ability isn't overstated. I think he's a great athlete. I think he throws a gorgeous deep ball. I think that's the best looking deep ball in the league. I think he is efficient, kind of makes things. The thing is, he doesn't do anything off schedule, and he moves kind of slow throwing the ball. Like I see him, you see Lamar running offense with the tempo. Herbert, not as much. Now, this year, though, he's got Jim Harbaugh is this coach. It's kind of masking that more run game, etc. But this is a Greg Roman offense. I think fits him because he kind of simple. Because Greg Roman runs things like simplify as well. Decent night for Herbert, I thought, in this one. JK, 6 carries, 40 yards. We know how good JK is. He left the game with an injury. Somebody asked me, a Steeler fan, well, that's why somebody asked me this week in the drive to the top, that's why we got rid of him. Yeah, that's why we got rid of him. Like, as talented as he is, he stays on the shelf a lot. It's just his body just doesn't always cooperate. But he's solid. I thought like he had a decent enough start to the game. And I think JK, wishing him a good recovery. Ladd McConkey, I think, reminds me of Ed McCaffrey a lot. Good, solid receiver. Good, solid receiver in the interim. A lot of people are going to say that he's a slot receiver, but he's not really a slot receiver. He is a complete receiver. See who that is, somebody. He's a good, solid, complete receiver. So Ladd McConkey is that. See, we're doing it live. Said somebody get the door. Derwin James is the safety. I think Derwin James is one of the best safeties in the league. He's kind of bounced back this year compared to some of the things that we've had. He's another guy. He struggled with his health, but he's been healthy. I thought the Chargers defense has been good. It got off to a good start. Ravens were just too much for the Chargers. And I think it was similar to what we did. I mean, obviously, you saw all the former Ravens like on the field. The coach and the Jim Harbaugh and John Harbaugh are obviously brothers. You had J.K. Dobbins, we talked about. Gus Edwards on the field. Hayden Hurst is there. Brad Bozeman is there on offense. Tony Jefferson is there on defense. Great. I mean, it's a lot of that, but I think they don't have a horse. The Ravens have real talent on the offensive side of the ball, where they're still building it. Herbert, I think, is a good quarterback. He's great. He should be great because of what the talent. He's not as good as Lamar. The Ravens offense, I think this is just when they get focused, when they cut down on penalties, they move the ball very well. Too many penalties. That's just so frustrating with the Ravens. Like, too many penalties, I think, for them. Can't have all these penalties every week. 3, 4 every week. McCary especially is getting flagged. Got to stop that stuff. But they were able to overcome it in this one for a victory. 30-23 in the game last week. Let's move to an MVP showdown in this one. And I'm not talking about Lamar. I'm talking about what might be the two best running backs in the NFL by a wide margin. Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, this is definitely the two guys on the marquee for sure. Look, these guys, anybody could have had them in the offseason for a price. A couple years ago, they weren't even – Saquon had a 1-year deal. So he was talking about recently, I saw how much better he's playing, having a multi-year deal, having some security. So definitely you see Eagles are very, very good football team. Lamar, that's his season, 2,028, 76, 25 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Lamar, fantastic so far this year. No question about it. Lamar, I think, is going to definitely still in the MVP race. It's kind of cool because this last few weeks, he hasn't been quite as good. That's just fact. But not quite as good the last few weeks for Lamar as well. But definitely outstanding season here. I mean, only 3 interceptions. Like, we're in week 12. I mean, you can't have that in one game, street football. I mean, this is crazy. So Lamar, outstanding here. Derrick Henry, Definitely one of the NFL leading records. I knew it. Let's get this squared away here. Let's edit that graphic there. So it's 1325 for Derrick Henry. So it's 1325 as far as for Derrick Henry to go along with those 13 touchdowns. These are the two best running backs in the NFL, best running backs certainly in the AFC as far as the season goes. So he's been terrific all year long. Derrick Henry, I think, like, puts people in the hospital. Like the old Rocky Balboa line in the movie, whatever he hits, he destroys. That's what it's like looking at Derrick Henry. Wears down all the defenses in the league. Definitely been phenomenal addition for the Ravens. I mean, you definitely saw it last year. It is eons difference between a Derrick Henry and a J.K. Dobbins in the lineup there. Zay Flowers, updating the graphic there while we're talking. Zay Flowers, 57, 798. Definitely one of the top receiving yards production wise in the league. Flowers, I think, is phenomenal. I think he's a real route runner. He's got tremendous speed, as we know. Sometimes a guy of his height, too, you kind of the thought process, he can't take hits, he can't take pounding, he can't. He is a solidly built. I think he's going to be of the build type, not maybe quite a Steve Smith, but a Tyreek Hill. I think that's where somebody, he's small, stature, not real tall, obviously, but he can handle it physically. Guys aren't just going to be able to push him off the line of scrimmage because he's small. That's kind of what happened like with Xavier Worthy. I think he's having trouble where you can't gadget him. That doesn't happen with Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers can handle himself against DBs and safeties at the line of scrimmage. Kyle Van Noy set the edge. Always got 8 sacks. I think it's been kind of mixed bag for him, but always is the athlete he needs to be. He just needs to get home more. Kind of reminds me of Jadavius Clowney a little bit. Athletically, he's everything he needs to be. He's just not as refined physically, etc. In tight spaces. I think not technically sound. Where Cal Van Noy is the total opposite, right? He's not nearly the athlete that he was, definitely, especially certainly at this point in his career. But technically, he's very precise. Sets the edge well, plays the well, knows when to rush, when to blitz. Definitely sees the Barkley and Jalen Hurts. Speaking of Jalen Hurts, since you brought it up, 13 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, 276, 2076 for Jalen Hurts this year. Hurts, I think, is one of the more phenomenal players in the entire NFL. Um, is he the best quarterback in the league? No, he's not. Is he a top 10? I think so. I think one thing, the smart thing they're doing with Hurts is they're doing what he knows how to do: run, tush, push, run inside. He runs, but he's not a Lamar Jackson in terms of speed on the outside. Kind of runs the gaps a little bit. Definitely, and it works. They're doing what works. They're not reinventing the wheel. Good coaching, good management, etc. Find the strengths of your employees or player, hide the weaknesses. So that's what they're doing with Hurts. Hurts has been good this year. I mean, there's no question about it as well. Barkley is out of this world. 223, 1392, 10 TDs. That game on Sunday night looked like he was playing against a bunch of JV players. I mean, the only thing that could have stopped him against the Rams, I thought he was going to get tired from all the uninterrupted running. Because they weren't tackling him. You figure he might just get tired on his own after, what was it, 255? That was insane. Uh, as advertised. Definitely, he spent a lot of his career in New York with quarterback Daniel Jones, who just got released. Now he doesn't have to see all these fronts. He's seeing a good pass game, a solid quarterback, decent offensive line, and he's going berserk here. So maybe 2 carries, both Saquon and Derrick Henry might get 2,000 yards total this season. AJ Brown, I think, is a freak of nature. I think there, you could argue there's no such thing as a 50-50 ball with AJ Brown. He takes them more than he gets them. It's more like 70-30. I don't know who takes the ball out of his hands. And he's a complete receiver. I've seen him run the short routes, the button hooks, the 9 routes, the slants, nothing that he can't do as well. I think he helps his quarterback a lot. I think the talentness of the AJ Brown, there is a difference without him in there for them, but they're going to definitely have him. I think they're going to have Devontae Smith in this game. I have not seen the injury report for yesterday, but phenomenal group of receivers that the Eagles have as well, even though they do a lot of run game as well with that team. Jalen Carter, this is the guy you need to double team as well. They're spending a lot of money on offense, okay? So you got A.J. Brown extension, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, a lot of money, et cetera, et cetera. So they don't have as much money on defense. So they have a lot of good young players. There's 2 of them, Jalen Carter. Double teaming him the whole game. Good idea. This guy in college was phenomenal when I saw him at Georgia. Definitely he looked like the best defensive player in the draft. Had a couple issues legally, et cetera. But that was the big thing there with Jalen Carter. That was probably dropped him in the draft, and it was good for the Eagles getting such a great player. Zach Braun, I think, is probably, the best linebacker according to PFF this year. However, some of y'all feel about PFF, but I think he's terrific. Instincts are great for Zach Braun. Whenever I see him, he knows where the ball is. He doesn't have Ray Lewis impact, but he's got that. I think a better comparison is like he reminds me of like a Bobby Wagner. He knows where the play is going, flows to the football, very smooth transition to the ball, good impact on the game, 66 tackles. Even that's a bit skewed. I think it's been more than that in terms of that. These are good near line of scrimmage tackles, I think, for Zach Braun as well. X Factor. We talked about Jalen Carter. As good as Tyler Linderbaum is, are they going to put Tyler Linderbaum single on Jalen Carter? Interesting. Rams didn't do that on the game the other night. Is Tyler Linderbaum good enough one-on-one to take on such an outstanding defensive front? Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis has been good for them as well. Interesting to see what happens there. Gotta cut down on the penalties. Roquan Smith. I think he was. I think like it's going to matter how he plays. I think he was limited in practice on Wednesday. We'll check that report today. But I think Roquan, is going to play on Sunday afternoon. I think Roquan, it's going to matter a lot because we know what they're going to do in Philly. This is like the Chargers and the Eagles run the ball, stop the run. You want to win the game, you need to stop the run. So this is going to be much more difficult this week. I mean, they have a good system, good run game, but they don't have. You haven't seen this from Saquon Barkley a lot. So definitely pressure on the corners, but I think Roquan, Roquan in this one. I do think the Ravens do win in this game. This is going to be a horse race here. I think you're going to have points in this one, 35-28. Ravens actually win this game. Don't lose against the NFC. I think this is a better team, NFC, than what they're used to. But definitely they don't lose against the NFC. Funny enough, the one quarterback the Ravens have lost to in the NFC since Lamar Jackson has been their quarterback was the guy that was just released, Daniel Jones. Thought we were going to get Daniel Jones maybe, but he signed with the Vikings. There you go. Right. So definitely thank you for that and joining us. So definitely enjoy the game on Sunday. Going to be phenomenal. Where the Ravens actually play the Eagles in M&T Bank Stadium. I'm sure